Great. And I see that there are people who have joined out from outside India as well. I saw Danny. I'm not sure where he joined from, but it seems like it was early morning when the event started. So good morning, Danny. And for anybody else who joined from outside India, uh, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time may be. All right, there we go. Okay, a little bit about myself. I am a curious learner, and as it relates to today's presentation, uh, I am just an external observer of AI, not very deep into the technicalities of things. I just look at it from the perspective of what AI can do, what AI is doing. So just an external observer, not an expert. I love working for startups. And just a fun fact about me, I need lots of posts to share my thoughts on LinkedIn. So if you go to my LinkedIn profile, you may not see a whole bunch of content shared by me. It just so happens that in my head, I want to share a lot, but I never really get to it. Cool. So that's just me. Let's jump right in. So today I have structured the presentation under sort of three broad buckets, I would say. I see that Q&A is sort of already happening, so that's good. First, I just want to touch on the key objective or the key takeaway from my presentation. Then just a little bit of introduction to AI. I mean, it's a AI presentation, so I should talk about it. But the meat of the presentation will be all around the different use cases that we'll see. Okay, so with that being said, let's jump right in. So my objective for this session for everyone really is when we think about AI ML, do we think of a solution looking for a problem, uh, or we really first look at problems and then try and figure out if AI ML is really the solution? Okay. So what I hope for you guys to achieve from this session is by looking at different use cases. I just want you to become curious about different problems that you see out there in the world, new problems that are not being solved, or different problems that are being solved by different companies, and just ask if AI ML is a viable solution, because not every problem can be solved by AI ML or should be solved by AI ML. There are a lot of other solutions also that maybe be well suited. So. I really just want you guys to take that away from this presentation, just curiosity about different problems. Okay. Uh, so I just wanted to put this thing out there. So when you don't think about problems and when you start looking at it purely from the perspective of a solution, it's like to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So please don't be that hammer. Look at the problems first and then try and figure out if AI ML is the right solution. Okay, so here is kind of how I evaluate different problems. So in my head, whenever I think about anything that I see out there in the world, I sort of try to bucket it under three things. So first and foremost, situations where we have to make quick decisions based on multiple inputs that are coming in real time. So think about a time when you may be driving, right? Whether it is a bike or a scooter or a car, and suddenly something comes in your path, right? People who are in India, I'm pretty sure we all can relate. Suddenly, maybe a dog will come in, or a kid may come in, or a cow may come in, or whatever, right? And suddenly you have to apply brakes. Uh, and we do that instinctively. That situation may have never occurred with us in our life. So it's not like we have prior experience, but there is something where we are able to instinctively make reactions. Uh, it, do we have tons of data in our mind? No. Do we have prior experience? No. And yet we are able to do that, right? So I kind of think about those sort of situations where there are so many multiple inputs that happen, and boom, we are able to make instant decisions, right? So how many such problems can we think of? Then another example where we have to draw inferences from lots of available data. So as an example, If you go to a doctor is going to prescribe you a whole bunch of tests before producing a diagnosis. Why? Because they just want to be sure. So they'll order a whole bunch of tests, and then they want to combine all of that data, correlate it, and then try and figure out if they can produce a diagnosis. So that's just an example where you may have situations where there is a whole bunch of data that is actually required to be collated and correlated to give you some decision. And then finally, I think about learning and adapting, right? So think about a kid. Uh, so a kid can actually learn multiple languages. How many times do you envy? I mean, I do envy my son. He can speak Hindi, he can speak English, he can speak, I mean, he doesn't speak, but he can understand Marwadi a little bit, he can understand Marathi a little bit. But think about it, kids, nobody has taught them grammar and whatnot, yet they are able to understand things purely by observing. So to me, when I look at that sort of a situation, the kind of bucket that I put under is learning and adapting, right? So if you think about this whole AI ML thing, it's really about lots of uh, data, training data, and then feedback and whatnot going in, and then the system continuing to become intelligent. So learning and adapting. That's sort of how I look at it. So those are sort of my three mental models. So with that being said, let's jump in here about artificial intelligence. So, I mean, nothing fancy, but if I think about it, it really is nothing but the science and engineering for making intelligent machines, right? The previous two speakers talked about a lot of use cases. They showed us how things can be done. But at the end of the day, what artificial intelligence really is, as sort of it says, we are trying to create intelligence in machines similar to how humans are able to process things. And obviously, there will be a time when uh, uh, for some situations, the machines will definitely become much better, much intelligent than humans because they have access to so much data. Okay, so then again, our previous speakers have sort of talked about all of these things, but this is just a simple slide of how you can think about AI and how sort of machine learning sort of plays into it. So uh, the key takeaway from this really is what we have is you typically have a training data, right? So a lot of previous speakers talked about providing data. Somebody talked about getting data from Wikipedia. I think before I started my session, the last question was about why to provide data in a blob versus something else, right? So it was all about how do we provide data, training data, and then based on the training data, you have your machine learning algorithms which try to draw inferences. Then what you would do is you would feed them a little bit of sort of real world data, and then you would see, okay, what did the algorithm do, and then you would basically keep providing feedback. As you provide feedback, as you keep adding more training data, as you keep tweaking data, as you look at feedback, at the end of the day, your model continues to become better, and it sort of increases your sort of relevance score, right? We saw in one example, I think Priyanka showed us the example where the match score was 99%, right? So not getting too technical, but just think about it like this: that whenever we are thinking about AI ML, even if we just remember one simple thing, that it really is just about providing enough real world examples to an algorithm, uh, testing that algorithm, providing feedback to that algorithm, and let it continue to optimize, continue to become better. Okay, so with that being said, let's look at a few use cases. And the use cases that we are going to see, everything may not require AI ML. And as we jump into the use cases, I want you guys to form your own opinions. I'm not here to say whether AI ML is being used extensively for those use cases or not, but it really is just for you guys to kind of look at a wide variety of use cases and form your own opinion. Become curious, go Google for yourself and figure out more. That's sort of the idea. So, with that being said, here is the first example in the world of agriculture. Plant diseases is a big problem, right? All of us want to eat organic, but the problem with organic is if you do not use pesticides, then there are so many plant diseases that can happen. And what do you do when plant diseases happen, right? How do you detect what plant disease it is? And if say you have a farmer who is out there in a rural area, doesn't necessarily have access to other experts, is there something that can be done? So companies do use ML with a lot of image processing data, where you can take a snap of a plant, you can that image gets processed, and then it gets analyzed by machine learning algorithms, and then there is a ton of other reference data that they have, and then based on that they can uh, draw inferences, and they can tell you, okay, whatever we are seeing, this is probably that kind of a disease, and depending on how much data is available related to that disease, a lot of data can be surfaced, the sources of that data can be provided, and so much more. So that's just an example of how AIML is used in agriculture. Let's look at another use case. Okay, so Netflix, right? Lately, based on the ads that I see on YouTube, Netflix has reduced their prices in India. I'm not sure if that is true. I never really had Netflix previously, but interestingly, it looks like Netflix reduced their prices to 149 rupees a month. So, okay, all that is good. So I started watching Netflix a little bit, and one thing that I observed is, if you look at Netflix, you sometimes see a show or a movie which is dubbed in different languages. Obviously, they do have these captions in different languages, but you also see the movie dubbed in different languages. Uh, so for captions, this is a snippet that I got from Google, which basically talks about they using machine learning to translate this. Translation is actually a very big use case, and we'll see a few other examples as well. But translating what somebody is saying in real time, uh, that can be done. And then I will leave you with a question. When you see a movie where the movie seems to be uh, perfectly working in different languages, do you think that movie is shot in different languages, or they use some technology to translate it? I would love to read your comments in the chat afterwards. But uh, that's a interesting question. And you know what? I've also lately, I don't watch a lot of TV, but whenever I do, interestingly, what I've noticed is nowadays, if you are watching a regional channel, uh, the ads in that channel are actually in local language. And if you watch, say, a Hindi channel, you would see the same ad in Hindi. I doubt they shoot the ad in two different languages. I'm pretty sure there is some technology that's going on. I mean, it's so funny when you see an ad where suddenly you had Akshay Kumar selling something in Hindi on another channel, and then suddenly, if you are watching a Marathi channel, Akshay Kumar is speaking Marathi. So it's interesting. So that's about entertainment. Let's look at continuing down that same thought. So we talked about ads, we talked about Netflix, uh, YouTube, right? So if you see, YouTube allows real-time captions. So YouTube can actually give you real-time captions. Now, the quality of the captions is debatable. So this is an example. I took this image just for fun. So see, while YouTube does do automatic captions, you probably don't have to spend money in transcribing that and adding your own captions. But if you rely on YouTube, I'm pretty sure YouTube is going to become better and better every day. But sometimes it's possible that the captions are actually not accurate. So that's basically about. It depends, right? So if you have a video which is very important and you want to make sure that it is applicable to a wider audience and you want to make sure that the audience understands it well, you may be better off actually doing your professional captions and putting it in the video versus letting YouTube do it. But if you don't care and you want to just let YouTube do its thing, sure, it can do it. Uh, and I also read that YouTube has slowly started bringing this capability even in live streams, right? So the difference between videos and sort of live streams is when you upload a video, right? You probably can give YouTube some time to go through the video, and then you could also give it a little bit of training data, basically mentioning what this video is about. You don't have to provide the entire caption, but you can just provide a little bit of what the video is. That will help you to figure out captions. But when you have a live stream going on, right, that's just happening all in real time. There is no preset context. So to me, it seems logical that YouTube first launched captions on videos, and then based on all the learning that they gathered from there, they then rolled it out to live stream. But it's actually fun to see how these things evolve. Okay, so let's look at another use case. Okay, so here is something that is close to us. We are in travel, and if you see in travel, I'm not sure how often you guys would have noticed this or not, but if you go to a travel booking site, say Expedia, Priceline, whatever, uh, what those sites do is these sites are what is called as OT, online travel agency, and what they try to do is they try to source their content from multiple different suppliers. So say you are looking at a hotel and the site is connected to three different suppliers, and okay, the suppliers don't really sell hotels. Hotels are hotels, right? So the suppliers only bring that data and provide it to the different websites. So it's very possible that these suppliers may actually have the same hotel coming to them. It could be with the same name, it could be with a slightly different name, and stuff like that, right? So think about your own experience as a user on that website. You go there, you type for a hotel and say Paris, and then you suddenly see a hotel which you can tell that it is the exact same hotel, but it just has a slightly different name, but it is listed multiple times. You wouldn't trust that website, right? So what AI ML can help us do is it can actually help us solve this problem. We look at all this content that is coming from different suppliers. We look at a whole bunch of data points, and then we can remove duplicates. So that way, the user experience is such that you only see one unique hotel, one unique room. And interestingly, this is actually a problem that is solved by Verbotech, which is sort of our sister company, if you will, started by the same founders who started TechSpin. So this is very close to our heart, and we have actually solved this problem. Okay, so moving on to something else. Okay, so Google Assistant. Uh, I think Google announced this Google Assistant a few years ago, maybe 2017, 2018. You guys probably may remember, but let's see. Here is Sundar Pichai introducing Google Assistant. Let's just see what he has to say.
Say you want to ask Google to make you a hair.
Okay, I'm pausing the video just to see if you guys can hear it.
Yes, Rohit, we can.
All right.
Get appointment on Tuesday between 10 and noon. What happens is the Google Assistant makes the call seamlessly in the background for you. So what you're going to hear is the Google Assistant actually calling a real salon to schedule the appointment for you. Let's listen.
So how can I help you?
Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd.
Sure, give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, what time are you looking for around?
At 12 p.m.
We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15.
Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.?
Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for?
Just a woman's haircut for now.
Okay, we have a 10 o'clock.
10 a.m. is fine.
Okay, what's her first name?
The first name is Lisa.
Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Great. Have a great day. Bye.
All right. Could you tell the difference that wasn't a real human? It was so close, right? So this is an example of what these technologies can do. Obviously, it took Google many years, a ton of data to get to this point. But so this is actually fun. But one thing that I want you all to take away from this is, look, that was an example of a user experience that was created using all of these technologies. But you saw how that experience was so seamless. So when we talk about conversational AI, conversational bots, and whatnot, how many times have you experienced some company try to put a chatbot there, but that chatbot is actually horrible? uh, that chatbot is just a bunch of rules, and it's like, okay, you say hi, and then it will give you a whole bunch of options, and then it doesn't understand anything, right? So the thing is, when you think about these conversational chatbots or conversational AI, I would say that keeping the user experience in mind, it needs to be flawless. So if I had my wish, I would say the conversational chatbot experience should be like this. Uh, it needs to understand all my intent. It needs to be able to talk to me as a human. And if it can't do that, it should seamlessly hand it over to a human. Uh, so I just wanted to relate the whole conversational chatbot thing to this Google Assistant example. Uh, I'm not going to talk about conversational chatbot. I know people have talked about it previously, and I'm sure you would hear more about it. Uh, but I just wanted to share how seamless the user experience should really be for all of these technologies. Okay, so let's look at another one. So there we go. So Google Lens is another thing that comes with Android. Uh, if you have not used it, please do. It's super cool. So again, Google Lens uses a whole bunch of things. If you break the problem down, right, what is it doing? You aim your camera at a thing, it snaps a picture, it then processes the picture, and then it tries to make sense of the picture, and then it tries to correlate it with tons of data that it may have in its database. Come on, it's Google, right? So Google knows a lot of things. So it's able to provide you a lot of relevant contextual data, and because it is mobile, so if you just experience Google Lens, it's able to provide use cases and experiences which are actually super cool, super relevant to what you are looking for. Even though it has tons of data, it parses the data such that only the relevant pieces are presented to you. Another interesting use case, which you don't see here in the slide, is how often have you gone to a friend's house and you have asked for the Wi-Fi password and the friend doesn't even remember because they put that Wi-Fi password a long time ago. So okay, and then after much struggle, sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah, let me look at the router, and then there it is. You have the password written there, but the password is so long you just don't want to type because it's so random, right? Use Google Lens. Take a photo. It will automatically uh, parse the image, fetch the password, and I personally not used it, but who knows, maybe it is smart enough to recognize that it is a Wi-Fi password and it automatically connects to Wi-Fi, right? So super cool. Okay, so let's move on to something else. So related to same image processing, uh, text scanning. So Microsoft Lens is another thing, and I believe now if you use Microsoft Office on your mobile device, this thing comes inbuilt. Uh, so I don't know how often you have struggled or with using Excel, or I don't know how often you guys actually use Excel, but think of a situation where you have a table on paper, either handwritten by somebody or you were reading a book or something where there was a table, and then uh, you wanted that same content in an Excel file so that you could play with it. Yeah. it's it's a laborious task if you have to do it by hand, right? But Microsoft Lens, use it, snap a picture, it automatically recognizes things, puts it in a table, boom, you are good to go. You are able to make edits to that table and whatnot. But my question to you all is, do you think this is AI or it's just normal image processing and that's it? Okay, but interesting use case, right? Makes your life easier. All right, moving on. So another industry, healthcare. Uh, so kind of how we saw for agriculture, where you could take a photo of a leaf and then you can get information about what that disease may be. If you think about healthcare, cancer detection is a big important topic. Uh, so what researchers are able to do is they are able to use machine learning using a whole bunch of analysis. Imagine across the globe there would be so many such tests and reports. Imagine, I mean, HIPAA and GDPR kept aside. Imagine that there was a way for us to at least anonymize all of that data, and I'm pretty sure people are doing it. Uh, if you were to anonymize all of that data and you were able to bring all of that together as training data to feed your algorithms, and then same thing, you feed the training data, you then evaluate what their output is. You still have experts, the doctors who currently look at the tests and your reports. Let them verify and then keep feeding that back. So that's another example where we use machine learning to help detect cancers. Again, uh, like any other use case, you don't want to solely rely on AI to say, okay, you know what, it is cancer or it is not cancer, because the stakes are too high. You want to make sure that you are using this technology in an assistive capacity, right? And sure, you can have a doctor who is provided this information, and then the doctor takes a look at it, and then they can basically be doubly sure that whatever diagnosis they are about to relate to the patient, that is actually accurate. But again, this can actually help expedite that process a little bit. So uh, there you go, machine learning in action in healthcare. Okay, so let's look at something else, another industry, right? So recruitment. uh, Recruitment doesn't seem like too glamorous to us if we are not involved in hiring, but it is actually a very big problem. Think about companies who post a job opening. Think about the amount of CVs they receive. Uh, so I'm pretty sure we have all heard about uh, machines evaluating these CVs, and then you have to write your CV in a certain way, and then you need to have so many keywords and whatnot. Why is that? Because typically a lot of companies use some sort of AI behind the scenes, depending on what sort of solution they are using, to at least screen the resumes. And then only the resumes that pass that first filter kind of go forward to the next step. And then I was looking at another startup. What they are talking about is they are actually talking about using uh, your body language, right? How you are communicating, how you are moving, how your facial expressions are during a video interview to actually make decision about your candidature. Are you lying? Are you excited? Are you not? And a lot of that thing can happen in real time. Uh, so that's another use case in recruiting. And then you can also use other things, right? Where depending on so somebody creates these job descriptions, and the job descriptions have all of these skills and whatnot. What you could do is you could test the validity of your job descriptions. How well did they work? So you wrote a job description, you hired people, and then you evaluate their performance. You feed that data back to the system, and see uh, how much of the initial job description was actually used in the job. Whatever the candidate said when they used in the job based on their feedback and whatnot, did it really help? Was the candidate a right fit? And you can basically have that entire cycle and keep feeding that information back, and keep making your system smarter and smarter for you. So another industry where AI is actually very helpful. Okay, let's look at another thing. So okay, so here is another video that we'll take a look at.
4 years ago, we started to wonder, what would shopping look like if you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and just go? What if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI into the very fabric of a store so you never have to wait in line? No lines, no checkouts, no registers. Welcome to Amazon Go. Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. If you change your mind about that cupcake, just put it back. Our technology will update your virtual cart automatically. So how does it work? We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology. Once you've got everything you want, you can just go. When you leave, our Just Walk Out technology adds up your virtual cart and charges your Amazon account. Your receipt is sent straight to the app, and you can keep going. Amazon Go. No lines, no checkout. No, seriously.
Well, that was obviously a marketing video. So they used all the possible marketing lingo they could possibly use. But it's super cool. it's Amazon, and you saw the kind of experience, right? I didn't have a chance to personally visit Amazon Go store. I would love to, but it's super cool what AI can do. But you see in that video how the technology just blends in the background. Obviously, it's super important. Obviously, it's allowing for a seamless customer experience, but it just fades in the background. There is a lot that's going on in the background. Tons of data getting processed and whatnot. But all of these little things come together to provide a awesome customer experience. So all of these little things, be it computer vision, be it deep learning, uh, be it whatever else, right? Uh, you can actually use bits and pieces of those in your applications, or you could even combine them to create an awesome experience like Amazon Go. Okay, so we'll continue looking at more use cases. Okay, here is another one. Uh, I know Priyanka talked about this thing a little in the context of searches for medicines. I think she talked about the COVID-19 medicines. I forgot the name of the medicine, but here is sort of another use case. So this is from a company uh, which offers uh, all these household products. So what they do is they also have local stores on their app, and they also have these products. So depending on what you are looking for, you could either find a store or you could find the products. And the company name is Kareem. I think they are based out of Dubai. So here the problem that they had was that when somebody is searching for a product, those days are gone when we could just get by keyword searches, and then they had to be specific keyword searches, right? Because uh, different people think about things differently. Throw in the uh, language component as well, right? Yesterday itself, I was trying to do my online shopping on GeoMart, and my wife said, "Okay, we need to order achar." And I literally typed achar. I mean, obviously, I could have translated achar to pickle, and I could have typed pickle, but I typed achar, and I didn't even type it in Hindi. I typed it in English. Uh, but the app was able to give me results about pickle. I mean, achar translated in English is pickle. So the app was smart enough to understand that. But imagine if it couldn't do that, what would it have given me? It would have said, "Oh, we don't have achar," and I would be like, "Seriously, you literally have achar that's there." So that kind of a problem is very predominant in e-commerce, and obviously, almost all e-commerce companies, I would say, have now solved that problem. And in this particular example, Kareem used Elasticsearch, and they have a thing where they used that technology to solve the problem. But in this particular example, do you think they used machine learning? Not really. Initially, they did not. Why? What is there to learn using machine learning? What you could, when you launched a app, you look at the data that people are providing to you literally. So you just look at the searches that people are doing, and you could actually manually scrub those searches and try and figure out, oh, okay, well, here are the things that people are searching for, and then you could manually just compile a list of all of those things, and you could come up with synonyms based on where your users are based out of, or rather, you have to obviously know your target audience, right? So if Kareem is based in Dubai, they need to understand who are their users, where do they come from, are they from different nationalities, are they searching for achar, or are they searching for pickle only? So stuff like that, right? And they can compile a list of synonyms on their own. You don't really need machine learning to do that. You could solve this problem using simple traditional mapping techniques as well. However, as things evolve, they can obviously throw in machine learning algorithms to automatically detect these things and figure things out on their own, right? As things are coming in, and then they suddenly say realize that somebody was searching for say mango pickle, and there are a lot of searches that are failing in real time. In real time, the algorithm could be able to see, oh, okay, well, I see this search coming in, and here are a lot of other things that are out there. And because the algorithm is intelligent enough to draw correlations, it is not waiting for a fixed set of synonym data that is provided to it. It could draw inferences in real time and throw it to the user and then evaluate. As I talked about it earlier, right? You want to show something or give an output, get feedback from the user, and take that as a feedback loop and keep learning, keep becoming smart, right? So that's something that could be introduced. But this is an example where while you look at this problem, and if the only thing that is going on in your head is, oh, AI ML, and you may just think, okay, well, this is a problem that can only be solved by AI. Not really. It all depends, right? So okay, moving on to some other use case. So here we talked about language translation previously, but in a slightly different context. But here is a tweet from Sundar Pichai announcing transcribe feature in Google Translate. So what does transcribe mean? We have always had Google Translate, and I say always as if it was from the beginning of time. But as far as we can remember, I feel like it has always been there. But we have used Google Translate really just for converting a few words or maybe a sentence or two or maybe a paragraph. But that has been very static in nature. We have had text. We go there and we say, okay, well, converts English to Spanish or English to French and whatnot. While that is good, but it does not necessarily help when you are having a real-time conversation, right? So imagine I speak English and I am talking to somebody who speaks French, and the person doesn't speak English and I don't know French. How are we supposed to talk? We could obviously chat, and maybe Google can help us translate our chats to the language, and I'm pretty sure Google can, but it's no fun when you could have an actual verbal conversation. But now you can. Google has this transcribe feature, so it can actually translate or transcribe, whatever you want to call it, your speech in real time. So that's an example where they have introduced it in Google Translate app. But there are a lot of other use cases where this thing can be done. So if the technology is available, I was looking at another app in the App Store where the app basically says or claims, I've never used it, but it claims that it can actually translate in real time. So if I speak English, the other person understands French, the other person will hear French. And when they speak, I will hear English. So maybe there is such a thing. I also saw on Skype's website that Skype does provide a feature like that. So language translation in real time. If it is not already there, it will be. I always wonder. I don't know how many of you have noticed, but you see when you have all these delegates or our ministers who go to a different country for meetings and whatnot, and obviously the other person say doesn't speak English and our guy doesn't understand French, so they use these headphones, and I've always wondered, are they listening to music or what are they doing? I hope that those headphones are actually enabling them to have a conversation in real time. Those headphones are helping translate the language in the language that both parties can understand. So language translation, big deal, right? It reduces friction, brings people together. Because we are talking about Microsoft, so I had to throw Microsoft in there. I found this out on Microsoft, I think it was Microsoft Office's website. where they talk about multi-device conversation preview. So they talk about all of these things, easily transcribe audio from each client and then easily send text messages between clients. Essentially, they are talking about the same thing where, okay, well, they can translate things in real time and let people have a conversation. So the technology is there, and you can use the technology to create wonderful experiences, whatever that may be, whether it is an app that allows you to have a phone conversation, or whether it is a app like Teams, where if, say, I'm talking and if my audience understands different languages, who knows, one day Teams may come up with a feature where the audience can change a toggle or select their preferred language, and then what it would do is it would let them, okay, listen to the presenter in a language of their choice in real time. And I'm talking about listening. I'm not talking about transcription that is happening and you are seeing text floating around the screen. That probably is an easy thing to do. But you are able to listen to a speaker in real time in different languages. Who knows? That day may come, or who knows? I may not be aware of it. Maybe that day is already here. Okay, so let's move on. Let's look at another example. So here, this is an example of a startup in India, which is in the insurance space. So if you think about insurance, right, a lot of us think about insurance from the time of just making a choice from multiple options that are available. While that is all good, but the real work actually happens when you actually need insurance, as in when you file claims. And filing claims requires a lot of paperwork. And imagine you are submitting a whole bunch of paperwork. Some paperwork is handwritten by a doctor whose handwriting nobody can understand except the chemist. I don't know how chemists do that, but and I don't know why every doctor's handwriting is so bad. But imagine you being a claims processing person, and you have to actually process a lot of claims in a short amount of time. So imagine you are somebody who is working for a health insurance company. You want to do an awesome job helping people get their claims quickly, but unfortunately you can't, because there is tons of data that needs to be manually scanned through. What can be done? Well, it looks like this company is using AI to automate claims processing. I'm pretty sure if you get into the depth of it, it would be very similar in terms of the sort of the technologies that they are using, right? I'm pretty sure they would be using image recognition to scan all of the documents that we submit. I'm sure they would be using things from that, and they would be looking for maybe fraud checks, just making sure, okay, does anything look fishy and stuff like that. But my point is, sort of the same building blocks, same technology can be put together in different ways to solve different problems. Here, insurance is one example where you could use AI ML to fast track claims processing. Who wouldn't love faster claims, right? All of us would do that. Okay, so we looked at insurance. Let's move on to something else as well. Okay, there we go. Let's see if it will play. All right. So I'll play the video and then we'll talk.
Presenting India's first self-driving vehicle prototype tested on unregulated public road. Equipped with a safety driver to take over in case of any mishappening, this vehicle, currently cruising at 20 kilometers per hour, can drive autonomously in unstructured traffic scenarios without dependency on lane markings or LiDARs, relying solely on camera sensor suite. The vehicle can make turns very smoothly to ensure a lovely travel experience for the riders. It makes a proper stop before making a turn to check that there are no vehicles obstructing its path from both sides. It can also pass under dim light conditions like under the bridge without compromising on accuracy. It properly applies brake on seeing a static vehicle in front of it and resumes its motion when the other vehicle has started moving. It can pass through very narrow drivable areas with great precision, like the two poles that you just observed. The vehicle can safely park itself at a predefined spot in urban traffic. It also includes a feature to predict the state of other vehicles in the surroundings and plan its maneuvers accordingly, like making a complicated overtake or entering the main road from the link road after ensuring that there can be no potential collisions from both sides. This was Minus Zero's self-driving prototype demo. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned.
I love this video.
Presenting India's first
The shots were awesome. It seemed staged to me a little bit, but the reason why I did not put self-driving vehicles like Google self-driving car or Uber or Tesla or some other thing is because this is actually super cool. While this is still a prototype, it's a long way to go. I'm not sure if this will actually ever uh, become a commercial application. But the thing is, whenever I've heard about self-driving cars, I've heard about Tesla, I've heard about GM, I've heard about other things, and almost every thing comes from the US. And in the US, roads are very different. People drive differently. And India is a very different country altogether. So I've always wondered if self-driving vehicle can be a reality in India, and this prototype, this video actually demonstrates that. Although there is a lot that still needs to be figured out. I'm not sure how accurate this was or not, but this is an example of a possibility. And the interesting thing is that in this prototype, uh, this person talked about things, right? He was talking about, well, you know what? We are not using any expensive lidars and any other expensive equipment. Uh, we are simply just using camera. That's it. So it's just focusing on using cameras, and that's pretty much it. And I'm not even sure if you looked at the vehicle. I did not see cameras mounted at the top, which were like 360 cameras and whatnot. It seemed like it just had one camera which was looking at in front. So a very good example of people using a lot of underlying technologies to look at different use cases. Obviously, there is a lot that still needs to happen to make it a reality. But I loved this, and I thought that I'll share with you guys because we keep hearing self-driving cars, and we think about all these big companies, but these sort of small things are also possible using the same underlying technology that these big guys use. Okay, so let's move on to a few other use cases. Okay, so here is another interesting one. Okay, uh, so uh, as I was growing up, I loved traveling in trains. But one thing that I realized was you go to different stations, and the lady who is announcing, she has the same voice. And I always wondered, how is that possible? I mean, suddenly I was in Guwahati, and now I'm in, say, Kanpur, two different extremes of India. And how is it possible that the same lady is making the announcement? Uh, I still haven't figured it out, but what I have figured out is that it is true. The voice is the same lot of time, and I'm pretty sure that they use different voices. But I don't know whether it's an example of AI ML or it's just something else. But something fascinating, right? And as I said at the beginning of my presentation, I'm going to talk about use cases where not everything has to be AI ML. There are a lot of other things that fascinate me as an observer. Uh, uh, and those things make a difference to people's lives, right? Imagine that you had to have announcers who are sitting there day in and day out making announcement. Yes, Indian Railways still uses human announcers, but imagine trains run 24 by 7. Imagine you being sitting there in the middle of the night just to make 2 or 3 announcements. That's not fun, right? So that's where this sort of automated announcement is good. Please let me know in the chat if anybody has any insights into how this is done. It's super fascinating to me. All right, so we are now towards the end of the presentation, and I want to close it by putting this post on LinkedIn by Nitin Kamath, who's the CEO of Zerodha. And it's very interesting because this really brings the reality home. People throw the word AI ML everywhere. If you talk to a startup, almost everybody would want to claim that they use AI ML. And a lot of it has really to do with interest generated by the venture capitalist community. If you are a startup, you are looking for funding, and if you are able to convince people that, okay, you use AI ML, you probably can get some funding, right? Nowadays, I feel like...
definitely.
Yeah, it was. I think
Go ahead, Rohit. I have muted them.
All right. So if you see, right, AI ML has been the buzz for quite some time. Now the buzz has been blockchain, and I feel like if I look at YouTube, obviously YouTube shows me what I've watched previously. So if I look at YouTube now, it seems like the next buzzword is NFTs. So whatever is the flavor, people typically tend to start using that. But this is a good reminder from somebody who I admire. This guy built a very awesome company, a very good solution. But see what he has to say. He's saying, well, you know what? When people ask me whether I'm using these new latest technologies, here is what I have to say. Right? Yes, we are a big company, but we don't really use AI ML beyond just simple image recognition tool for processing images. That's pretty much it. Apart from that, no AI ML. I mean, he could very well say that they use AI ML, but he is not saying that. And then he linked a detailed article by their CTO, and that article talks about an interesting thing where it talks about a COVID-19 testing kit, and it says AI powered. And what would you do in a COVID-19 testing kit that it's AI powered? And you take a sample and then you just basically analyze a sample. It really is just one virus, right? How complicated can it be? And it says AI powered. What is AI powered? And then that article talks about, well, if you go through the entire thing, basically what they are talking about is, well, the kit itself isn't AI powered. The app that gives you the results, it uses some fancy thing for showing one little piece. So it's like there's a lot of AI marketing that's going on. So I want to leave you guys with this. Don't get swayed by AI. Try to look at different problems that you see out there in the world. Try to think about those problems, how they can be solved. You create your own mental models the way I showed you my mental models. Create your own mental models. Try to understand the basic components of AI ML, right? Image processing, machine learning, feedback loops, predictive analytics, and all of that, right? You don't have to be an expert in all of these things, but if you just understand the basic concepts and you apply those basic concepts to a problem after you have successfully evaluated and broken that problem down, it will help you figure out if AI ML is the solution. And obviously, if you have determined that it is, there are a lot of resources that are out there where you can go and do a deep dive. There are a lot of technical folks, a lot of experts like our speakers who can help you with a lot of in-depth uh, in-depth tools, in-depth strategies of solving that problem. They can help you out figure out how to code that problem, right? So not everybody has to be an expert in all of these tools and technologies. Just understanding the basics should actually help you a lot. So with that being said, that was my last slide. I have 10 minutes left, so anybody who wants to ask me any questions, feel free to, or I'm happy to wrap it up.